Hey everyone, it's Skyee here and welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if you're new. So today we're going to be working on part 2 of our color along. I'm actually really excited to continue on this one, so hopefully you guys are too. So as you know, we've been working in Mythomorphia by Kerby Rosanes, and this is what we've got done so far. So we're doing the Dryad. Hopefully that's how you say it. I'm really happy with this. I definitely am still a little bit not sure where I want to go with colors. And part of me is actually wishing we'd have used pastels for the background to create kind of a softer look, but I like the watercolors too, and they're a lot faster, so. All right, so we're just gonna dive right on in. So we're going to be using the Derwent Inktense pencils, so I'm just going to pull out my swatches and my pencils here. So I've got the 72 set here. Absolutely love these pencils. I don't have swatch cards made for them. It's on my list to make swatch cards for these and the polychromos and probably all of my other pencils maybe eventually. But we'll kind of see how that goes. So I'm just going to tuck a piece of paper in behind her here. And then let's figure out colors. So I kind of want her face to be maybe green, fading to brown. I'm not really sure. I like the background, but I'm not really sure where I want to go with the rest of the picture. So it seems like a lot of people kind of made her a different color to kind of stand out from the tree. And then I do really like these. Like here's an example here. I really like these ones where they've put like trees in the background. So that's kind of a neat idea. And we still could do that. But I think I actually kind of like the ones better where she's either just like a slightly lighter color than the tree, or even just like the same color as the tree. The ones where she's colored a different color, I feel like she just stands out a little bit too much and I don't really like that. Okay, I think actually before we pull out the Derwent Inktense, let's go into the background a little bit more. Alright, so I've got my Kuretake Gansai Tanbi paints again. I do want to add some kind of like trees in the background. I think that would look really cool and add some really interesting kind of depth to the background. So we're going to want them to be darker. So I'm actually thinking number 56. Let's try that, and then we can kind of go from there. We can always darken them up if we need to. Actually use the plastic here this time. Okay, so I'm going to start with it fairly watered down. I'm going to just kind of pull like a straight line up. Okay, so it's way too watered down. Just pull in a little bit more pigment and try again. That's better. And we're just going to kind of like pull up and make these little like tree looks. You don't need to be perfect with this. So yeah, just random little lines. Some of these can even just go kind of like straight up. We don't have to add any branches on top of those. The only thing that you have to be mindful of is when you're going over an area that's already wet with a darker color or with like a darker pigmentation of the same color that we're using right now. It might bleed into that color, which might make your trees look a little funny, but we're using a pretty light variation of this green, so it shouldn't be too bad. I'm just going in with like a little bit more of watered down green and just kind of creating some random strokes here and there. Maybe coming up into like the yellow up here a little bit. Okay, I think that looks good. So let's start in on the other side now. I'm just gonna pull my book over a little bit so I have a little bit more room for my wrist here. I always thought my desk was huge until I started doing projects and coloring and stuff on it, because oh my gosh, I just never have enough room. Okay, so we're gonna start more on the inside. Oof, this is a little darker than I wanted it to be, I think. That's okay. If that happens, we can always, spread the color out a little bit. So just kind of keep going along here. Spreading this out. We are going to do some darker ones anyways. I don't want too many though, because I want them more to look like they're in the background, and the darker ones will look like they're closer to her. Okay, added a little bit more water. We'll see if this is any better. Much better there. Okay, we can do a couple in the background that just kind of come, just kind of up from the ground. They don't have to really go anywhere. I usually blend these ones into pre-existing branches up here, so it looks like there's more trees, but we're not getting like an overabundance of crisscrossing branches that make it look too busy. Okay, now this side is pretty much dry, except for like a couple smaller pieces. But this side's still pretty wet, and I don't want to put my hands in that, so I think I'm going to grab my hair dryer and I'll just dry this off. All right, so that added a lot of extra interest. I was gonna put in some darker trees, but now I'm a little bit on the fence about it. Maybe do a couple to see what it looks like. We're gonna use the same color, so we're still using 56. And I'm just gonna darken up the color just a little bit. Don't want them super dark. Okay, So this one, we're gonna kind of bring up this way. We're gonna make it a little bit thicker. Okay. We're gonna bring up some branches on this side here. If you're not sure of your tree shape, you can always go lighter and then come back in with more pigment to make it darker. I've had a lot of practice doing trees with Inktober and stuff, and I love doing like wispy trees like this where it's very loose. There's not really a whole lot of structure to them. It's mostly just playing around. Try and get some a little bit closer in the ditch of the page. I think I'm going to thicken it up down here a little bit more. Okay, just kind of like that. Let's put one more in here on this side. I kind of bring it up through the mushrooms here, up past the fairy wing to about here. Bring it up a little bit. I want this one to kind of come up around here, kind of through these branches a little bit. So you don't have to be too perfect going through the branches as long as it makes kind of a little bit of sense. Okay, we're gonna thicken this a little bit. I think this side should come out a little bit more. Okay, I think that looks good. And then again, kind of the same thing. We're just gonna create some darker stumps here. Or not really stumps, but like trunks, I guess, darker trunks. We'll just kind of fade those into the background. They don't have to be as dark as our actual trees here. Just a little bit darker than the background trees. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so I do think that added quite a bit to the page. You can already tell between the two sides that this one just has a little bit more interest because there's more color variation between the trees and the background. All right, so we're gonna do the same thing on this side. So I don't know how deep this green is. It's pretty dark. Okay. So I want to make just a small tree here, I think. So I'm using just the very tip of my brush. I have quite a bit of water on my brush to keep the color kind of going, but I'm barely touching it to the page because otherwise it's going to pool. Often if I'm doing branches going this way, they end up looking a little stiff, so I got to fix them up a little bit. Okay, we'll thicken up the bottom here just a little bit, not too much on this tree because it's just a little guy. And then let's put one more kind of coming out from behind the page. This is going to be a little bit tricky. Just going to color in just alongside this whole area here. And then we're going to start bringing in some branches. I'm just going to darken this up a little bit and get some more water in here. Hold your paper down if you need to. Mine's pretty warped. I have some kind of coming up here. Just kind of coming off the page. And the beauty of having this one kind of coming out from the side of the page is we don't have to do too many branches if we don't want to. There we go. I think just like that. And then same as on the other side, we're just going to bring up a few other kind of little stumps. I'm going to stop this one just as we get to this tree because otherwise it'll drag the darker color in through. You do one right there that comes up to about here. Let's do another one right beside this one. Maybe one just in behind this fairy guy. There we go. I like that. Then I think the last thing that we're gonna do is I wanna just like add and accentuate the grass a little bit. So I think we use number 57 for that. So I'm gonna get that going here and I want a really deep amount of color. So I'm going to pretty much use it straight off of the color block here. All right, it's the same as before. I'm just going to slowly start putting up little pieces of grass. Maybe some stand up higher than the others. They're gonna like crisscross a little bit. And then along the bottom, kind of want them to be a little bit crazier, more pressed together. And And for those ones, I just won't go up as high because we want to keep that kind of, that look at the top there. Don't quite know how to explain what I'm trying to do. It's a lot easier to explain with pencils because I color with pencils a lot. So most of the techniques that I'm doing with my paint here is just luck. Some of it from doing Inktovers because the ink and watercolor kind of act fairly similar. Okay, like that there. Let's come over to this side and do the same thing. I think I have a little bit too much paint on the tip of my paintbrush here, so I'm just going to kind of dab some of that off on the plastic that I have beside me. So I don't want it to pool while we're making these little pointy, delicate grass strands. Add some more along the bottom. It's gonna be a little bit harder to get them to look as nice going through the mushrooms, but you just gotta kind of do the best you can. There we go. So I kind of have a general idea on what I want to do with these little fairy guys. I don't quite know how I'm going to do it, but I think we should do that now. So I'm just going to grab a paint palette, which I use just plastic plates, and just some white acrylic paint. I use the De La Rowney white acrylic. Just need a tiny little drop there. And then let's see, our trees should be fairly dry. It's just the grass we got to worry about. So we got to make sure not to stick our hands in that or dry your page, but I don't think I'll need to. I'm going to start with this one here so I can rest my hand kind of on this part. And then I know I'm not getting into anything I shouldn't. All right, I'm going to start kind of coloring around this guy. So I've got a little bit of acrylic paint on my brush. My brush is slightly wet. Put a little bit of the paint there. I'm going to clean my brush off. It's still a little bit wet, and I'm just going to start blending this out. Okay, I'll do the same thing around here. Just going to add a little bit of the acrylic. And then we're going to start blending the acrylic out a little bit. gonna kind of keep working this out in like weird little motions until it kind of looks like this, where it's faded out for the most part. You can't really see where it starts. There's a couple little random shapes, but that's totally fine. It's gonna give it some character, and plus we're gonna go in with a white Posca pen or gel pen later on anyways. So do the same thing on this little one here. And the beauty of this is the watercolor is going to react a little bit with the water we're putting down. So it's going to mix in with the acrylic paint, and it's going to help fade it out. You just keep working on that until you're happy with it. I think I'm happy with that, guys, so I'm going to move on to the next one. And that's this little one standing on the mushroom here. Super cute. Quite a bit of green mixing in with this one, but that's okay. Okay, I like that. All right, so we'll start on this one up here now. one more. This little guy looks like he's doing a somersault in the air. All right. I think that looks good. All right, and I think we'll start working on the bottom here. All right, so this is the one that I like. I will try to find the original poster so I can credit them in this. I think I really like how all of the colors are the same. Our background is quite a bit darker on this one though, so I think I'm gonna lighten it up a little bit in regards to the colors, but I think this is mostly what I'm gonna go for. Yeah, I'm just gonna pick colors kind of similar, but lighter. Let's see here. I think having a little bit of like an orangey tone would be very beneficial because we've got so many greens in the background. So I think for the orange, the mid vermilion would be really good to use. So I'm gonna grab that. I think oak might be one of our darkest colors. I'm gonna grab oak, and I'm actually gonna grab the dark chocolate as well. We've got dark chocolate, oak. Let's grab the saddle brown. And actually, instead of the mid vermilion, I really like the baked earth. I think that one's brown enough with an orangey enough tone that that would be really pretty. There's that one there. And then maybe a little bit of willow. And I think that's probably it for our tree colors. So let's grab some kind of like mossy colors. So I want the light olive. And you guys will know which colors we actually end up using. Just because I'm grabbing all these colors right now doesn't mean we'll necessarily use them all, because I change my mind a lot. I do want some really bright greens, I think. So maybe the apple green, iron green for shadows. Ooh, Ionian green as well for shadows maybe. And I like the hooker's green. So that's a fairly good selection of greens. I think we're okay there. Okay, so along the bottom here, I'm thinking it's going to be mostly greens with a little bit of brown, because our tree is going to be mostly brown with a little bit of green. So it just makes more sense to me that way. quite know how I want to do this. Let's go in with the iron green. I'm kind of pick out some shadows here. Let's see, maybe down here we'll start. So I'm going to go in with the iron green here. Okay, I think we're just going to kind of keep bringing it up until it's apparent that it's turning into roots. So I think like right about here, I'm going to put like a little bit less of the iron green here because I think that's going to be starting to turn more brown than green. Oh, I think this was actually meant to be background. It looks like this is like a root kind of coming up from the ground. So maybe just kind of do that like a really dark brownish, almost black color to kind of send that into the background without having to pull out the watercolors again, I think. Okay, we'll come up to these mushrooms, I think, with the green a little bit here. It's really hard to tell what's what sometimes, so I find with these pictures there's so much going on that it doesn't really matter if you mess up on what something is. The chances of someone noticing are actually pretty slim, unless they're like really studying your picture, which I don't know. I know personally I don't do that very often. I'm usually too overwhelmed by how pretty they are to really study them, I guess, unless I'm trying to like recreate it maybe. Then maybe I would study it a little bit more. So the plan is to get the whole bottom done today, just like this part, the base of it almost. And try and get that done today. I'm not counting like the mushrooms and like the little bits of grass. I just want kind of like the stump parts, I guess, done. And I don't know how far up we'll activate it because otherwise it might be hard to blend our colors into it when we come back. So I'm gonna have to kind of play by ear on that. It looks like this here is like some kind of like bush or like some kind of plant. So I'm just going to kind of leave that alone for now. Just add some shadow in right above it. And then this I think is some kind of bush as well. So same thing, I'm just going to shadow in above that. The thing I love most about Inktense pencils is you don't have to be very perfect with these. We're literally just throwing down color. And then when we activate it, it's going to do a lot of the work for us there. So that's part of why I'm going so fast and kind of rushing along, because I want that organic kind of look. I think that's probably good for this one. So that was the iron green. So what was our other dark green that we brought? We got the Ionian green. So I think just to make some of these shadows darker, I'm going to bring some of this in too. And I'm just going to kind of pick and choose random places. I'm just going to put this in over top of the iron green. Definitely want it to be darker down here. Maybe in here. This spot for sure. You can always use Kerby's drawings as cues anywhere where he's got like a lot more of these kind of sketchy lines. It's probably going to be darker. So here, I think it'll be darker because the tree kind of like turns oddly here. I think we did this already, but let's add a little more. Just 'cause I'm not sure if I did or not. Behind this mushroom, I think. Make that darker. Behind here. I think I'm going to color this spot in. Kind of coming along underneath this tree trunk, because I think this is kind of like tucked in behind everything, and I'll probably go in with a brown to make that even darker too. And I think under here, let's make this darker. Add this spot too, we'll color that in. Okay, I think that looks good. What's our next greens? We got light olive and spring green. They're very similar, those two. And then we've got apple green and hooker's green. Okay, so the light olive I think is the next darkest. So let's grab that. And no rhyme or reason to this. I'm just gonna kind of throw this in. Just random places. We do have 3 greens to use, so we don't have to put this over everything. We want different kind of variations of green. We want to combine different ones. We don't want this to be everywhere, just in some places. So I'm just going to kind of randomly and quickly work through this just to throw this color down so I'm not overthinking it. A little bit of this down here. Maybe some shadows along this rock. see what time we're at. All right, so we're only about an hour in. All right, we're gonna grab the hooker's green next. I'm just gonna sharpen this one. And again, we're just gonna play around and add this color in. I'm gonna kind of go over some of the other colors, really mix them together. Some areas it might be more on its own. And get a good amount of it in here, that way we can kind of drag it into the ditch. Okay, next we got spring green. Now this is fairly a dark color, so I'm just gonna lightly put this in here. I'm gonna be a little bit limited to where I put it. I'm going to put this lightly on the tops of some areas, and pretty much anywhere where we've added a shadow that I haven't added kind of like a mid-tone to, I'm going to use this for the mid-tone. That looks good, and then let's go in with the apple green. This is pretty much just going to go over everything for the most part. But especially the areas that we haven't colored in yet. realized that I didn't really add a whole lot to this rock here, so I'm just going to randomly pick one. I'm going to put light olive in here. And then color the rest over that. All right, so there's our greens. So next, let's come in with our browns. So I'm just gonna order these from darkest to lightest. I think we had dark chocolate, which is gonna be our darkest. Let's see, out of willow and oak. Oak is darker than willow. Saddle brown and willow. Saddle brown is darker than willow, and then willow and baked earth. I'd say baked earth then willow. Okay, so I definitely want to add some of the baked earth in here, so I'm going to do that first. I'm going to go in with the baked earth. I'm going to mostly concentrate this to the shadows, I think. All right, let's go in a little bit with the willow. I'm not going to add too much of this color. I'm just going to add little bits here and there, and then I'm going to use it as a shadow for some of the grass that we colored because it kind of, there's no line between it, so it makes more sense to activate everything in one area between lines, if that makes sense. So basically, because there's a line here separating from all of this, we can activate all of this without worrying. This one I think will be okay, but we just want to make even blends. So when you kind of leave activated versus unactivated Inktense on an area, once it dries, it dries. So you can't go in and reactivate it. And that's part of why we probably won't activate all the way up the tree. We're going to have to kind of find places to stop where it's not going to be super noticeable. All right, saddle brown. Just going to add a little bit of this as well. Let's put the oak in some of the lighter shadow places, and then we'll save the dark chocolate for kind of darker shadow places. I'm just going to color this spot in directly with the oak. Oh, and then this spot, we figured was supposed to be background. That's okay, we can fix that. So now with the dark chocolate, we're going to concentrate this towards our deepest shadows. So anywhere that should maybe be really dark, I'm just going to kind of throw this in random places as well, just to create some darker places, even though they don't necessarily look like they should be. It'll help add a little bit of extra depth to the page, and it'll make all the other greens around here and browns look lighter. All right, I think that looks pretty good. I'm excited to activate this. So I have some paper right here for cleaning off my water brush. And then I'm going to use just a generic water brush. I've got kind of like a smaller one. They always leak like crazy when I first start using them, so I'm just going to make sure that it's not going overboard. I usually like rub it on my hand a little bit until it's not like pooling water out of it. Okay, so I'm going to start here. I'm going to start trying to get this color into the ditch. So just cleaning off your water brush whenever you have like a darker color and you don't want a whole lot more of that color on there. I love how beautiful and vibrant the Inktense is. It is absolutely gorgeous. Doesn't matter how many times I use the Inktense, I still get so mesmerized when I activate them. Okay, we're just gonna fade this color up here, and that'll kind of give us a base to work off of when we decide to color that these kind of plants in. That way we can still activate the spot, and then we can just kind of add to it to make it actually stand out a little bit. And then it should kind of match in with the already activated area a little bit then. Okay, so I'm just kind of activating up to here. I don't want to go too much farther than that. And then this one I think I'll kind of activate up to here. This is so pretty. I'm very, very excited to see this page finished, and it's been so long since I've done any pages in a Kerby book, and this one is definitely my favorite out of the books of his that I have, so it's nice to be able to get back into it. Okay, we're gonna do the same thing with this grass as we did with the other one. So we're just gonna kind of drag the color up along there a little bit, just to give it a base color. I'm gonna activate this darker area first, and that way when we activate the rest of this, that can kind of dry before we go in and activate the rest of that stump, because otherwise that darker color is going to bleed into all of the other colors, and it's so dark it will take over. So we definitely don't want that. that's everything activated. How beautiful is that? Oh, I'm obsessed with it. And trying to create this effect with pencils would have been extremely difficult. It would have taken forever and it would not have looked this smooth. So I am really excited to finish this. All right, so I'm going to zoom out, ignore the mess. All right, so this is what we've got so far. I think this time the camera is actually not doing it justice. The background still looks absolutely gorgeous, but it's washing this out for some reason, and it's so much more deeper and intense than it looks on camera. Hopefully when I auto fix the white balance and everything on my computer, hopefully it will actually show you guys how gorgeous this looks. I hope you guys are enjoying this color along, and I think we're going to end it here. I'm going to write down the colors we've used, and I'm going to do a back-to-back recording of part 3 because I literally just cannot wait. So yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. As always, take care. All right, guys. Bye.